Hey guys, how are you today? I'm doing pretty well, thanks for asking. This is your boy Mojo Master here with the nerdiest idea he's had in a long time. Being in a content creating mood, why not content create a let's play of doing something really nerdy? I'm gonna try and stream you guys, show you how simple it is to get a turnkey Linux virtual machine running using Hyper-V. I'm using Windows Server 2012, but one of the coolest parts of Windows 10 is that the Hyper-V hypervisor is built into Windows 10 Pro. Any computer with Windows 10 Pro is able to be set up to run the entire Hyper-V setup. I would imagine that Windows Server has some advantages compared to Windows 7 when it comes to Hyper-V, but the bottom line is it's a really powerful tool that they're giving away with Windows 10. Mind you, software licensing when it comes to virtualization is a little bit of a nightmare. It's pretty expensive, but in our case, we're using the... I'm realizing right now that my bandwidth is shit because my stream isn't fluid at all. I'm gonna restart the stream. Give me just a second. I'm gonna switch. I'm actually going to hook into Ethernet. I might not even have to stop the stream. Let's see what happens. Oh, I bet I know what's happening. That's obviously what's going on. Alright, I'm back. Your friend Kyle here with the nerdiest idea that he's had in a long time. Being in a content creation mood, why not content create something about Linux that's nerdy? And yeah, basically the concept here is I'm going to try and walk you guys through the steps involved in creating a virtual machine using the Turnkey Linux operating system. You know what? Like, this still isn't working right, so I'm gonna stop the stream and start for a third time. Shut it down. Shut it down. Look, I don't want the computer to go to sleep. Hey everyone, I realize now that the stream keeps coming back as the same stream, and it's not the third video I make, but it's like it was one continuous stream. I'm gonna trim this video once it's done anyway. Yeah, that's what's gonna happen. I'm still learning this whole live thing. Refresh the dashboard. What is going on? What is this friggin' delay? God damn it. Those is able to wind up content creators that they're doing something really dirty. I'm gonna try and stream. So no, stream health is excellent. Try and stream. Is this okay? Is it just me? Doesn't know how it works? Is that what's going on here? Thomas says no, stream health is excellent. Try and stream. Okay, yeah. We're good, we're good. I apologize. It's okay. It's just me. Doesn't know how. Okay. I think I'm ready. Okay. Now I'm really ready to start. I say that, but video's choppy. Hope it isn't choppy. Anyway, let's cut to the chase. I don't know about you guys, but as a Linux nerd, I've spent a whole lot of time installing brand new Debian installs just to toy with something or just to get a service set up for something. Now that virtualization is so accessible, it's definitely a lot less hassle than needing to put a floppy into a computer and stuff. But yeah, I decided to try to stream a Let's Play video of Let's Play installing a Turnkey Linux distro. Turnkey Linux is really neat. I came across this today looking for an easier way to get ticketing software set up for some pre-production testing at work. And yeah, I stumbled upon across Turnkey Linux. The idea is they are ready to go packages, virtual appliances that can be used with different virtualization technologies. I'm going to be using an ISO because I haven't figured out how to use any of the provided types of images with Hyper-V yet, but you'll see how easy and simple it is to get one of these up and running, a lot quicker than using the traditional methods of doing it. What I would used to do would be to just install a base Debian system and flesh it out with the stuff that I need. But this is a lot quicker. This gets you up and running with the software that you need in minutes. Let me show you what I mean. So yeah, well, as I was mentioning, the software that I need in my case is software for ticketing. I found a version of Turnkey Linux here that does a install of an open source ticketing platform. They have mirrors all over the world for all their different packages that are available. Just basically try and choose a location that's close to you. Since it's mirrors for Linux ISOs, the availability and reliability of a lot of these mirrors is going to vary a lot, but regardless, they're not very big downloads. Everything's available in 32-bit or 64-bit. And with virtualization, if you're not familiar with it, instead of having a server do 110 different things, you can technically have 110 different servers doing one thing. That way, when something breaks, it's a lot less of a headache to get stuff back up and running again, because it's a part in a machine that you're replacing, instead of dealing with potentially causing software conflicts when you're resolving one issue, changing packages around, installing a new version, you break something else. And if you know anything about messing around with Linux, you know how much fun it can be to try and resolve dependencies that have been compromised by installing versions of software that aren't compatible with versions of other software that are installed. So yeah, I'm really more of a Linux hobbyist. I'm not a professional with this stuff. I've used it mostly personally, just messing around with it for personal use. Every once in a while, I do need it for work, and it's good to have some basic knowledge of how Linux computers work, how to get software running on Linux, how to troubleshoot software on Linux, because yeah, it's a great power tool for solving problems instead of shelling out hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars for licenses for commercial software. Using open source stuff with a little knowledge and elbow grease, you can yeah, basically accomplish the same stuff without spending all that money. So I downloaded the ISO file. It only took a few minutes. It was only 300 megs or so. This is my Hyper-V manager. I'm going to apologize, everything is in French, because yeah, I live in Quebec. It's a French-speaking province, so basically all the software I deal with is in French. I'm actually using a server that we have at work for this kind of messing around that I do. So yeah, let's start by creating a new virtual machine. The advantage of these lightweight Turnkey Linux, it's all Debian based. The advantage of running these things as appliances, as opposed to like having one server do it, for what we're trying to accomplish here, is ticketing system. There's not much software involved in something like this. There's some database software, that, also HTTPD, the stuff with PHP and all that jazz. Basically, if I'm not mistaken, stuff you typically find in a LAMP install. But yeah, instead of having to install all of that stuff by hand, you can set up a virtual machine with one of these pre-packaged software appliances. Save a lot of the time that you would waste setting the system up and have a working product in minutes, instead of going through documentation, trying to figure out how stuff works, going through error logs, finding out where you went wrong, installing what. This just gets it up and running, and then you can use it. Obviously, there's not Turnkey Linux installs available for every Linux package that exists. You're going to have to do it the traditional way if your software isn't available prepackaged for Turnkey Linux. But yeah, that being said, let's give a name to our virtual machine. We're going to call this just Turnkey 01, for lack of a better name. As far as I know, we're using Generation 2 VM, and Hyper-V won't give us many advantages for the type of use we're going to be getting out of this server, so we're going to leave it with Generation 1 type VM. Really, the need that we have here, well, for one, I'm still developing this. I'm still working on this whole idea of using a ticketing system at work. I'm not even sure if this is the software that we're going to use in the end. But we're a small shop. I don't think that the VM would even require much more than 512 megs of RAM. So I'm going to leave it at 512 megs of RAM. This is going to vary depending on the type of appliance that you're installing and the needs that you have, because depending on how many users are going to use it, how much storage you need, there's a whole bunch of different variables. You're going to need more or less RAM, but for a simple appliance like this that's only doing one thing, I bet even 256 megs would have cut it, since I'm not putting this on the internet or anything. It's only going to be used internally. And I chose here for configuring the network interface that's going to be used. I have a bridged connection set up for this type of VM that I'm using, so that way it's going to be available on the right network at the office. I'm going to go and stick this somewhere else because I am running dangerously low space on that place. Stick it in here. You just point the place where you want to store your virtual hard drive, and again, like by default it's trying to allocate 127 gigs. I'm going to give it a value of 20 gigs because this is never going to grow to that size, and if it does, somebody messed up somewhere, because this is a pre-production test. That ISO file I downloaded, we're going to go mount it as a boot media for it to start up on it, so we can get the install going. Really, the install is ridiculously simple. It's like, I remember installing Linux in the early 2000s, and it could get a little hairy sometimes. Installing Linux in 2017 for the most part is a cakewalk, and this is even simpler than that because it doesn't ask you any questions that don't pertain to the software that you're going to be using with the appliance. So I chose my ISO file, and usually you could maybe go and give it a little more torque, add some vCores if it's something that's more processor intensive when you're creating a VM, but for what we're going to be doing with it, really, the stock settings should do the trick quite nicely. So let's open up our console for it here. We're going to hit the power button and watch it boot up for the first time. It's going to start up asking us if we want to install it or try the software in a live session. That's pretty neat because you can, without even going through the installation process, you're able to try the software out and see if it actually works for what you're trying to use it for. But in this case, I'm hoping to maybe actually be able to get some use out of this, figure out if this software is a good fit for our need. So yeah, this is the installer starting up. Didn't take very much time. The server this is running on is not that powerful. We are talking, yeah, it's not even a real server. Well, no, it is actually. Sorry, yeah, it's a Xeon, not a very big one, but that booted up real quick, and it installs just as fast. We're not going to worry about any of the partitioning because, again, this is an appliance. You treat it as a machine that's used for one thing. One of the cool things about Turnkey Linux, they monetize this by offering backups, cloud backups, and cloud hosting services. They put it all on Amazon. They have free tiers to try it out. It's really neat. But from what I can tell, they also maintain their forks of the operating systems, or whatever they call it. I'm probably not using the right term there. But there's updates. There's all that. It's maintained by the community, so it's a lot. If you set it up properly, it's a lot more secure than say just setting up your own Debian installation and just you fire and forget. You never do any maintenance. You never update anything, and then you get in trouble a couple of years later because you're a shitty system admin, and that's like me. So something like this where there's automatic updates available, it's pretty neat. I wouldn't want automatic updates on a system with 120 different software packages running for a dozen different needs. But since this is an isolated one usage machine, I'm perfectly comfortable with letting Linux update itself. The part I answered a question before about Grub, which is the bootloader used most of the time for this type of Linux operating system. The bootloader is what helps your computer get the operating system up and running after it turns on, after it posts. I just told it to install Grub because again, it's a VM. It's only used for one thing, so you can use the default settings comfortably without any problems whatsoever. So in the time I was explaining what Grub does, it finished installing the entire operating system. It needs to reboot. That's not too much to ask for. And the VM reboots. Within a few seconds, it is going to start up again. And it asks a few questions pertaining to the configuration of the application that you're asking for in installing the appliance. It asks you to create passwords for the root account, user account, and for the accounts needed to operate the software involved. First boot has got to do a bunch of things. That's almost done. Really, these Turnkey Linux pre-rolled VMs make setting this software up so easy that someone with little to no Linux knowledge, little to no knowledge about virtualization, with how accessible Microsoft made Hyper-V, including it in Windows 10 Pro, just at home, just for messing around, just for learning Linux. It's wonderful. It's a lot less hassle than using something like VirtualBox or other commercial alternatives that cost more money. Really lets you take advantage of what's going on with the virtualization revolution that's been going on for, I guess, the last 15 years or something. You gotta choose a password. I'm going to use my unsecure password I use everywhere for these internal things. I'm the best at OPSEC, guys, am I right? And I'm going to violate even more OPSEC rules by using the exact same password for all of this, because, again, really, it's really just a test at this point. If I wind up using this in production, I'm going to probably not use one of these appliances and actually install a system myself, because, that's how I'm used to doing it. But maybe this will work really well and we'll wind up using it in production. I mentioned that they monetize this awesome stuff that they do by offering a couple different services. They have backup, they have hosting, they have dynamic DNS. So if you don't know enough about hosting stuff yourself, about networking, about getting access to your virtual machines from outside your home network or your office network, there's a lot of value here because it's really affordable and really accessible for people to just get in and play with and even use it in production, because the stuff that they offer is really impressive for the price. We don't need any of this because it's a test. I was mentioning security updates before, so let's ask for them. Might as well let Debian update here. Since these Turnkey Debian installs are so lightweight, I don't think it's going to be very long for it to update itself right here. Compared to an operating system that's, I'd say, like maybe more conventional. These operating systems, these Linux installs, only come with what's needed to operate the tool that you're trying to use. One, it updates itself all by itself. That's an advantage. But two, the less software that's installed in the system, the less possibility there is for vulnerabilities, conflicts, headaches. You have it. So keeping everything lean and simple, like these virtual appliances does, really has its advantages when it comes to setting up and administering different virtual machines if you're using more than one, because you can have an appliance for an internal wiki, you can have an appliance for your firewall, you can have an appliance for a ticketing system, and all of these appliances, well, I'm calling them appliances, but they're prepackaged Linux distros that contain nothing but the application that you ask for. It's a real easy way to get into the whole compartmentalization of different services into separate VMs. It's really something that is relatively recent to me. Splitting them up is so separately, but when you think about it, it really has a lot of advantages. And as time goes on, stuff like this, I figure, is really what's going to become more mainstream, because it solves so many headaches. Virtualization is just so wonderful. When you virtualize an environment, be it for something like this or something a little more intense, often I come across customers who haven't updated their infrastructure in like 150 years, because hey, who wants to spend money on IT infrastructure, right? It's a computer, why do you spend money on that? So you wind up with a computer with an operating system that's 15, 20 years old in the worst case, but let's say it's Windows XP. It's a headache to keep supporting it on the original hardware, because if anything stops working, if the power supply blows up, a hard drive dies, the motherboard blows, for one, you want to fix the wheels on the car before they fall off. So by virtualizing a legacy application, like obviously the solution, the ideal solution in an ideal world would be to install a modern operating system on new hardware, purchase software that has a support contract with the vendor so that there's a solution when something breaks. But in some cases you have to use duct tape and chicken wire to get a legacy system that's still running on its original hardware but not quite ready to be decommissioned. Make things a little more flexible, a little more secure. You can literally clone the hard drive. You can create a VHD file using a tool which is a virtual hard disk usable by Hyper-V, which in that case you just import into Hyper-V, you locate the RAM that it needs, you boot it up, and for most cases, as long as there's no surprises like security dongles or anything for the software, that's another story. You boot it up, you tweak the network a bit maybe, but everything is exactly the same as if it was installed on the original hardware. I love virtualization. It solves so many issues, because once your old 486 or old computer from 10 years ago running Windows XP, once that's been virtualized and everything works, you can throw that thing in the garbage, ensure that there's backups being done, do everything not everything, but a lot of the stuff that you have that you do with a modern computer, without replacing the entire infrastructure. If you virtualize it, you just gain so much more flexibility and capability to accomplish so much more than used to be able to. Some people are hesitant to embrace virtualization in their IT infrastructure, be it for, it's foreign, they don't know how it works, it looks intimidating. Right now, with Hyper-V, it's child's play. As I was mentioning, the only thing that can be an inconvenience, especially if we're looking to reduce costs, is the licensing when it comes to virtualization for Microsoft software. Let's say it's Windows XP. If I'm not mistaken, you need some volume licensing for a Windows version that is supported today with downgrade rights, but you also need CALs for virtualization or something. If you're talking about someone who doesn't have any money whatsoever, as easy as it is to get it up and running, you might want to check to make sure that it's legit before using it in a business environment, because as easy and simple it is to virtualize everything, if ever a software audit is to come around, you're going to be in trouble if you don't have the right licenses for your Windows stuff. But that's why I love Linux. Now, maybe I'm mistaken because of how complicated Microsoft licensing is. Maybe I need a license to do what I'm doing right here. Maybe you could leave that in the comments if you have that knowledge. It's a question I probably should ask my Microsoft rep. So yeah, right now the operating system is installed. This is the menu for it. This virtual machine, this virtual computer does one thing. It runs this software that's OTRS, which I was mentioning that I need it for to do some tests for ticketing at work. We want to try and reduce the amount of papers that we lose with customers' phone numbers on it, stuff to order, whatever. We're going to try and put as much information as possible in the ticketing system, see if it helps us be more productive. So yeah, there's not very much. There's the networking that you can play with here. I got an IP address over DHCP. I am going to give it a static address because, like I said, I want to use this inside. So, I don't know what. Oh, right here. Because I just need to make sure that the IP address I'm going to use is free right now. Is 12 available? Looks like it, because 11 should ping. That's my other Debian box. Let's get back to our console. Where is it? There it is. Yeah, what I just did there, if you're unfamiliar with Linux, one of the coolest parts of Linux is it did this before, like a long time ago. Back then it was a lot more impressive, but you can switch terminals on a local machine by holding down Control-Alt and using the F keys. Typically, the main console for your operating system is going to be either Control-Alt F7 or Control-Alt F8. You can use any of the other consoles to go and do other things while you're either inside of something that you don't have command line access or whatever. So yeah, let's give it our address I chose. I said 12 earlier, so we're going to put it on 12. The rest is perfect. I'm actually going to give it DNS other than that router because, yeah, habits. Great. So yeah, I have set it up on the IP address I want to use it, that I want to access it with. I would imagine when I apply here that it is going to probably restart the networking services, the HTTPD, whatever it needs to get the changes up and running. So that's done. From what I can tell, we're finished the install. So if I open up my web browser, this is the moment of truth. So move tab here. I'm so glad that there's nothing embarrassing tabs down there, embarrassing favorites down there, because that would have been very funny, when the live the stream to have some kind of weird porn show up there or something. So here we are on our new Turnkey OTRS software. This is the software that came with the VM that we just installed. So with what I did, I'm yet to use this before, but this is OTRS. Let's go see OTRS real quick on their website or something. I can give you guys a better idea of what OTRS is real fast before we log into it, and show you real quick what the interface looks like and whatnot. So yeah, OTRS means Open Technology Real Services. So this is software that is used for ticketing in a business or a community organization or whatever, and it's all open source. So for something like what we're doing here, if you know how to install it, maintain it, and support it, you have the software and it's free. They make money, I imagine, by charging for support, charging for extras, maybe software as a service stuff. But yeah, this is their website, just to give you an idea. Oh, I should have done that. That's not what I wanted to do. I want to go back. Let's just run back to our .12 here. Like a lot of this software, it doesn't seem to be very pretty, but well, that's okay. It's a self-signed certificate. Of course, it's not secure. Let me in. Please let me in. No, that's taking a little while. And here we are. So let's write our username and password we set earlier. And again, yeah, sorry about the French. That's Quebec. What was the? I have to use admin. This is taking a long time. I don't know what the holdup is. Maybe it needs more torque than I thought that it did. Sorry. Guys, shouldn't use root. Do as I say, not as I do. You should be set up to be using sudo, not logging in as root. But that's the beauty of a pre-production test environment. It doesn't matter if you use root. So yeah, what is going on? Apache is, yeah, redlining the CPU. I might have been mistaken. Might have been an idea to give it more vCores. I guess that while we're at it, we can try that. Great. And like up here it says right here, don't use root to work with OTRS. You're gonna break stuff, but it's okay. So let's shut the appliance down. Get back in our Hyper-V Manager. Actually, yeah, let's go back to our console. There's going to be a reboot shutdown option right here. Yep. Let's do it the safe way, gracefully. We're not a bunch of cavemen. We don't choke the computer out with a pillow to put it to sleep. Let's let it down gracefully. Calming down. It's going to turn off. Go back to our Hyper-V Manager here. We want to come to our Turnkey. I'm going to go to the options, which is paramètres in French. And in CPU, right here you see we only got one virtual processor. Let's give it 2 virtual processors. I don't want to exaggerate either, because like I said, it's just Apache. Start it up again. It's going to boot up. Start. shouldn't take very long to get to our hugely complex and useful blue menu. Alright, great. Okay, that's okay. It's just the log showing up there. So let's sign again. Just to watch our top to make sure that it actually made a difference. So back we go to our web browser. Probably gonna have to log in again because we rebooted the appliance. Alright guys. Log back in. Registration. Oh, they didn't ask me to log in again, and as far as I can tell, it seems to be a little bit more snappy. But yeah, this is bare bones, nothing set up. It's a clean slate, but yep, everything is up and running. So you create a ticket, you give a customer's name. Let's call him Turd McGee, because that's a great name. You can give a customer code, so we're gonna call him Turds. That's a good code. There's different queues that you can set up in the ticketing system. This is exactly how I'm gonna get organized at work. But let's call it the postmaster. I have no idea what that means. There's no user screen or anything, so I can't set an owner. This is a test ticket. Disregard, please. Right? And then you can come in here and say, do something cool. Let's write something in big tag. And God, there's Comic Sans. That is awesome. That's going to be my signature if I use this software. It didn't change anything. Where did I misclick? Where is my Comic Sans? I can't live without Comic Sans. You all know how good Comic Sans is. Let's make it big. I'm going to write my favorite word right here. I'm doing something wrong, but whatever. So we created a ticket. You can attach files to it. You can schedule stuff. You can give it priority. So let's say if it's code red, the end of the world, make it very important. That way you can easily see in your list of things to do, which has priority over what. So I create my ticket, and I fucked up somewhere because it's giving me an error. I put the customer's name in, and the customer doesn't exist. So okay, yeah. So since I don't have any customers out of the system, it didn't work. None of that is important because this wasn't the point of my Let's Play. The point of my Let's Play was to show you guys how easy it is to get one of these virtual appliances up and running using Hyper-V. As I said, I'm using Windows Server 2012, but it's basically the same thing using Windows 10. If you have Windows 10 Pro, you can install the full Hyper-V hypervisor with almost all the functionality of a Windows Server operating system. But yeah, in Windows 10 Pro, it's pretty neat. I'm happy to not have to use VirtualBox anymore for pre-production development and messing around. Yeah. So thank you very much for watching. This is very close to being the nerdiest thing that I've ever done, but I hope that it was interesting to you. I hope that you maybe learned something. If you have any questions or comments, or if you'd like to see me try and Let's Play Linux something else, let me know. Send me a message, leave it in the comments. I might give it a shot. This was fun. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I hope that you have a great day. Peace. That's the awkward time where I have to fiddle to go stop the broadcast.